All right. Well, welcome to the Shaq News Chattycast, the podcast that's fighting over a dying star. I'm one of your hosts, Steve Watts.
I'm your other host, Brian Carr. Steve, as always, today's Chattycast brought to you by Audible.com. They can give you a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial. All you got to do is go to www.audibletrial.com/chattycast. That's audibletrial.com/chattycast.
That's right, Brian. So every week we pick a big topic, post about it on the Shaq News Chatty, and then we talk about it in detail with your comments, hence Chattycast. Today's guest, a man who's mad at Nintendo, Asif Khan.
Hello.
This has been Asif's sort of de facto slogan for like the last week, and so I had to use it.
Yeah.
Also, we are well aware that we are broadcasting this simultaneously with the Battlefield reveal, so no one is going to watch us.
It's about World War I. You already know.
We can cover the Battlefield reveal as it happens. We'll have some breaking news later in Newsy Bits. So it'll be fun for people to listen to our hot takes as soon as we hear about the news.
So wait, are they actually calling it Battlefield 1?
It can't. That's got to be fake.
I mean, it's the same thing I said when I was like, are they actually calling it Xbox One? So I mean, they did.
But that was one ONE, not.
And this is Battlefield taking place in World War I, is the rumor, right?
I guess. Yeah.
I'm all for this, by the way. I like the old school combat games. I know we're going to talk about Infinite Warfare later and how war should be infinite and infinity is cool. But I like, when you look back to the Medal of Honor games or you look back to the original Call of Duty games, I love those games that take place in like actual historical context. I also liked Wolfenstein in that respect, even though it was some fantasy world. You still had to kill Mecha Hitler, which I love.
When you reboot a game series, though, you don't put one after it. You put the at the front of it.
The Battlefield.
The Battlefield.
That actually would make sense because we often call World War I the Great War.
Yeah.
The Battlefield makes sense.
Yeah. It'd be great.
There was nothing.
Or just go back to the Battlefield 1942 is like one of the best ones. Why not just go back to naming it after the year it takes place?
Battlefield 1916 or whatever.
But then they can't have a year-spanning adventure.
That's a good point.
Like, what would you name like Call of Duty Black Ops 2? Like Call of Duty 1970 whatever, also 2025. Anyway, all right, we're getting far afield here. Today, we're going to be talking about spiritual successors to tie into the launch of Battleborn. Speaking of battle things, Battleborn this week. I don't care how much Gearbox tries to dress it up. That thing is a spiritual successor to Borderlands. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about what we are playing. Asif, what are you playing lately?
I've been, dabbling in a little bit of VR again because I have one of these HMDs and I love VR. I tried Cyberpong VR, and it's basically
Pong?
I wish it was just Pong. That'd be simpler. It's basically, you remember Breakout? It's basically Breakout in a three-dimensional space, and the blocks are coming towards you, and there's a line that if the blocks get past, you die. So it's a high-score game, which I love because it has great replay value. It also has multiplayer, but sadly, because there's like 14 people that probably have the game right now, I couldn't get a multiplayer game going. I told the guys
you need to organize with somebody else, like
I told the guys at Shaq headquarters, we just got a vibe up there. I was like, hey, download Cyberpunk so we could do some multiplayer, and same with Daniel. But the single player was great. I mean, check out the video. It's it is a workout because you're in a 6x6 foot square and you can move around in it and balls are bouncing all over the place. What I thought was cool is like a green block would unleash another ball, so you have multi-ball action going on. The purple blocks were like power-ups. And as you got like your power meter up, you could switch to like a gun in one hand, or this one as like a gun that you push a trigger and it pulls all the balls towards you. So it's like like how there's that sticky paddle in Breakout. It's kind of like that, but a gun. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, and there's a video up on Shaq of it. Outside of that, I've been playing The Lab still. I'm trying to beat Slingshot. Apparently, you can beat Slingshot. It's around a score of 99 million that gets you there. I think my highest score is around 30 million. It's really hard. The key is getting these tracer cores. basically it gives you a sight, so you can see exactly where you're aiming, and each time you hit a blue box, it unleashes another Tracer Core. And Tracer Core is pretty funny because all he does is say Tracer Core repeatedly, which is pretty amusing. Outside of VR, I still play Rocket League every day. I'm probably more addicted to that game than I've ever been. It's that good.
Your love only grows as time goes on.
Well, I think
you don't stop
any game.
Loving it.
Like any game, you get better as you play it, and I'm finally able to do aerial shots. I've been competing with Shackers for over a year now, so it's you get better, just like any game. I think that's what makes this game so great. Is it's really easy to pick up and play, but it's very hard to master. And you have guys that have put in almost 1,000 hours in the game for a game that's really
those amazing trick shots that get shown on Reddit all the time.
Yeah, I don't know if you
watched. Not as much as
they
used to, though. I've noticed. Like, there's been a drop off in those.
Well, last weekend was the RLCS, the championship series. It's a global championship. The winners get $75,000. Team Shack News played in it, and that was a couple of Shackers. They got murdered by the. It was Kronovi and his team. There's some amazing teams out there, and it's a legitimate esport. So yeah, I mean, I watched some of the highlights, and I think it's the iBuyPower team. They're like ridiculous. I think they're the #1 team in the U.S. I think it's #1. And there's still a lot of really impressive goals happening. I think a lot of these guys are practicing for the RLCS because they can win money. I played that. Oh yeah.
Uh-oh.
I played Overwatch.
Oh, there we go. Overwatch. Yeah. Well, hold on. I know Brian has thoughts on Overwatch as well.
I have so many thoughts on Overwatch.
Yeah, I know. I have a lot fewer thoughts because I've been playing a lot of Battleborn. But before we get to Overwatch and Battleborn, which I think kind of neatly segue into each other, let me just tell you two about the best $7 that you're going to spend this month. It's called Pocket Card Jockey. It's such a weird game. Like, my review is up on the site now, and I gave it like a 7, which I'm going to sound a lot more positive than a 7 sounds, because it has like a lot of weird flaws, and it's kind of unintuitive and hard to wrap your head around at first, and it's got some weird, obnoxious little design things. So like all of those are like the reasons that I was like, okay, yeah, 7, it's good. But at the same time, it's like crazy addictive, and that seems to be like the consensus from like basically every review I've seen so far. I just did a quick search to make sure that I got the price right, that it's $7. Mm-hmm. And the top result was I can't stop playing Pocket Card Jockey, which I think was like a Polygon headline. I think mine said it's really hard to put down. I saw a US Gamer, I know Nadia over there reviewed it, and she said that much the same thing. It's super addictive. It's hard to stop playing this game. You have a horse, a little pony that you adopt, a little cute cartoony pony, and then you play games of solitaire to like keep his pace up. Come on.
So I played the demo for this a little bit last night, and does it get better? Because the demo is not doing it any favors. Like, all it has been is so far like characters talking forever.
Oh yeah.
Systems that I don't understand.
It's extremely talky at the
solitaire.
Beginning. Yeah, it's extremely talky at the beginning, especially because they have to explain why you died.
They don't really need to, though. None of this matters.
I mean, no, they don't have to. But I find that plot conceit funny. Like the plot is like you're a kid who decides to be a jockey and you're not very good at it. And your very first race, you get on the horse, he bucks you off, and you get trampled by other horses, and you die.
That is kind of funny, yes.
Yeah, and you die immediately, like first thing, like right off the bat, and then.
But we don't need a 20-minute conversation with your guardian angel afterward.
Your guardian angel comes and tells you that he'll let you continue to live, which I guess is a thing guardian angels can do, as long as you like fulfill your life's ambition. And your character is like, well, my life's ambition is really to own my dad's farm. And he's like, no, you're gonna race horses. And so you're basically forced to race horses. And he's like, but you're really bad at it, so we need to find some way to make you good. So I'll tie your skill at horse racing to something else that you actually are good at. What are you good at? And the kid's like, I play computer solitaire. And so he's like, there you go. And so It's a ridiculous plot. It makes no real sense. But
I appreciate the weirdness. I just don't know if I'm really that into it yet.
Yeah, see, once you get past the talkiness of the first part, there's really not that much of it. The most talky thing that will happen is something that I skip regularly, and I mentioned in my review that I skip because the tutorial horse, who's named Off Course,
that guy can shut up any time too.
Yeah, he shows up after every single race to say, "Here's what happened. Here's why you lost." You know, and most of the time,
your resume.
Yeah. So it's really annoying, but luckily you can just press X to be like, "Shut up, Off Course." You know, actually, like almost every time it's like, "Oh, you ran out of energy" or whatever, and usually it's because I had like a bad hand of solitaire. You know, at some point during the race, especially like near the end, because if you get it on like the last hand, you're basically fucked, and there's not that much you can do about it. But at any rate, one race I lost, and I was like, I don't know if I understand this game anymore. Like, this is when I was still reviewing it. But I was like, I thought I had a pretty good grasp on how this game worked, and I just lost that race. I don't know. I'm questioning everything I know about this game. What was I supposed to do in this situation? And then Off Course showed up, and he was like, "Hey, you did good. You really did. The other horses were just better." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, that was actually helpful advice, because it let me know that like it wasn't that I did anything wrong according to the systems. I just had a horse that was like lower stats. Anyway, it's weird, and it's very self-aware, and it's crazy addictive. They have this.
What platform is this on?
It's 3DS.
Okay.
It's like a very simplified form of solitaire. It's not, draw 3 cards and then you try to get rid of the first 2. It's just draw 1 card and stack them that way. Because the point is that you're trying to do it quickly. There's like a time limit on each one, and if you match all of the cards in the set, your horse gets in like a better mood. Meanwhile, there's like a comfort zone area on the field that if you get a perfect set while in the optimal comfort zone, you get, I forget what it's called, but some kind of like supercharge where all of the power-ups come like magneting towards you, and you can just charge through the other horses and knock them around and stuff. Anyway, it's real good. I don't know. You need to be patient, as Brian referenced, with the first like several minutes when they're teaching you the system.
I'll try to give it another shot, but man, alive, it does not make a good first impression.
The problem, here's the real problem with that tutorial segment, is that I said this in my review too, it really overwhelms with information. Like they're trying, it's this really complex set of systems that all interlock in this kind of weird way, and they try to explain all of it to you, like right at the beginning. So even after going through that tutorial, it took me like a good several races of like trying different things and being like, oh, okay, I see now, you know. So they could really just kind of skip most of that tutorial crap, and I would have still had to just experiment and figure it out.
It's just bad tutorial design, I think, is the biggest problem.
Yeah, it's not good. So like I said, those are the things that sort of held it back from getting a more glowing review. But once you are into it, once you like understand the systems, it's really addictive and hard to put down. So yeah, Pocket Card Jockey. It's $7. Come on. And it's the Pokemon team. So support the Pokemon team.
I was gonna ask if it was a first-party Nintendo title.
Yeah, it's Game Freak, and they have little Pokemon references. I raced against a horse at one point called Bulbasaur, like soar like flying. And the trophy case, once you start earning trophies, the trophy case has like big Pokemon-y letters that says like gotta earn them all or something like that. So yeah. Anyway, we can stop talking about my pretend pony racing.
Yeah, why don't we talk about something that matters, like my pretend...
Hold on. Let's stop talking about the big Blizzard game.
Yeah. Steve stopped me from talking about Overwatch to talk about a pony solitaire game on
Yeah, well, it's because I know that Overwatch is bigger and it's going to lead more neatly.
I was going to say something about... I've been playing more Bravely Second.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that game's great.
On the subject of portable games.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, there's not much to say about it that we haven't already talked about, but a thing I noticed is that, we're in an age where games are really championed for, how difficult can this be? How challenging, how frustrating. Bravely Second's like, nah, just break this, make it easy for you. We don't care.
That's what I love about the Bravely games in general, because you distilled it in a very simple way that I wish I had for my review, but yesterday when we were talking, you were like, "This is a game about systems."
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's totally what it is.
It's just exploiting one thing or another. Like I have used the tricks on shacknews.com to level my characters up. I think probably way higher than they're supposed to be right now. Like I'm only on chapter 2. I feel like I'm really early on in the story still.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, because I just found out like this one big plot point, and like this all seems like this should be like early third stuff, and I'm already halfway to the level cap. Like this is ridiculous, and I love it.
Breezing on through, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been abusing the level system, the XP boost you get for winning consecutive battles. I've been doing the street pass stuff, and really like that's almost all done, and I'm still not even like anywhere near like halfway point of the game. So
yeah,
I'm basically...
I referenced when we were talking. I referenced the Final Fantasy VI battle where you just use a Phoenix Down on the Phantom Train.
Yeah.
And it feels like that, where there's like really cheap ways to get around things.
And to me, like I love the story, I love the characters, and the gameplay is fun. But to me, that's the most fun part of this so far. Is just how much can I just screw with this game, and just do like make it something that I can just sort of like, all right, for the next 20 minutes, I'm just gonna level as far as I can. And
yeah, that's kind of how I played it. Where I would just turn off encounters when I was doing story progress because I'm like, I just want to get through more of it. But and then between dungeons, I'd be like, where's the best place to go to level up, and then I'd just go back there. And to reference like a specific kind of system that they let you exploit, and most games, like you're saying, like most games would like find a way to sort of cheese it and be like, no, you can't do that for one reason or another. There's one boss who possesses members of your party, and very minor spoilers here. It's more gameplay spoilers than plot, really. But there's one character who possesses members of your party, and that's after you've gotten the ability. The job from I think Exorcist it's called, where you can reset a person's HP to their previous turn. So you can just wait for that guy. You can let him possess a body, wait for him to go back to his body, and then use that ability on him. And it's like I just reset your HP to 0 because it was 0 while you were possessing me, and you immediately die. It's it's a one-turn kill exploit. That's just like that's the kind of fun, crazy things that they do.
I'm so glad the series exists, and I hope we get a Bravely 3rd and Bravely 4th and so on and so forth. But yeah.
Like the abilities are insanely overpowered, and they're okay with that.
Speaking of overpowered.
Oh, what a segue. Overwatch.
Well, just real quick about Bravely Second. I haven't played the first one, but after hearing you guys talk about this game, it like speaks to me as someone who likes RPGs but doesn't have time to play them.
Oh, it's exactly made for that. If you have fond memories of like Final Fantasy V, but you're like, I don't have that many hours, like this is the game that's made for you.
I love Final Fantasy 1, and from everything I've heard, it kind of sounds like it. But yeah, I may have to dig out my 3DS and play that game.
Yeah,
and you'll never hear from me again.
So like I kind of recommend playing the first one first because there's story stuff that doesn't make as much sense without it. But the second one
the first one's also very good.
It's very good. The second one's better by a long shot, but the first one is excellent. Yeah. So both highly.
And we've already spoiled like the major plot.
Oh no, I already know all about the spoilers and everything, and I'm still like, dang, I want to play this game. I feel like I've missed out on something.
It's executed very, very well. So even if you know what's coming, it's still.
It's kind of weird because it's like it's a classic. The way I refer to it is it's a classic RPG that's made for like working adults who have limited time. But at the same time, when I got done and looked at my game clock, I was like, 40 hours. So it's like I still spent like the normal RPG amount of time. But it just felt like a lot of content, and it didn't feel like I spent that long.
Yeah.
Because there was never a moment where I was like, okay, time to spend 3 hours just pressing left and right in this dungeon and beating these easy enemies. Because they fast forward that process for you. That's the whole point.
You can automate it. You don't have to touch a button. It's awesome. As a fan of games that you don't have to actually play, I am all about my ringing endorsement for Bravely Second.
But let's talk a little bit about a game that you do play.
Yes. Finally.
Overwatch. Now, as I referenced very early in the show, my experience with Overwatch is very limited. I basically tried out the tutorial and tried out like one bot match the opening night, and then I was like, well, I also have Battleborn that I have to get to for review, and so I haven't really gotten a chance to go back to Overwatch since then. but I know that both of you have been playing it. So, Brian,
yeah,
give us the skinny on Overwatch.
It's the best thing.
All right.
I love it. I love it. I know Asa
real short.
head over there, and I respect his opinion and his right to exist. But this game, it's just I don't know. It has captured my imagination. To me,
How? Why? Why is it capturing your imagination?
It's hard to explain. It's a bunch of different things. Number one, I think it's just very because like on paper, I should not want this, right? On paper, it is absolutely okay. There's no single-player campaign. There's no real story stuff to speak of. The modes, there's not that many of them. But in execution, I don't know. It's the most fun I've had playing a shooter in a very long time.
It's also stylish as hell. I mean, like,
incredibly.
I feel like, regardless of your feelings on the gameplay, that is some style.
It is incredibly stylish, and I don't like Blizzard has always been really good about creating like these really like amazing character designs and artistic and like they really and not only are they really good at like the aesthetic end of things, it looks gorgeous, and I'm not even I can run it on my PC. I'm not running a like really high-end video card, and it still looks great. But I'm also really just enamored with the fact that they found something and they took this whole idea of competitive shooters, of team-based shooters, and they're like, okay, how can we make this, how can we refine this, how can we streamline it, how can we make it kind of boil it down to its core essence and make it accessible so, you know, fools like me who'd have no idea what they're doing can come in and play the game and have fun and feel like they're doing something and get better and learn things and have that sort of like higher...
Along those lines, Brian, sorry to cut in here, but something that stood out about that accessibility occurred to me when I was playing the tutorial, which I think we need to mention real quick, is that the tutorial was like the most basic shooter tutorial I think I've seen.
It is excruciating
since like the year 2001 or something, because it's going through because there's a lot of shortcuts, shorthand for shooter tropes that we all know and recognize, and we don't really need to be re-initiated into it. And so most shooters are just like, yeah. Look up, look down, shoot your... Okay, yeah. But this one, like, painstakingly takes you through every single thing. And even things that it's like, yeah, you press forward on the control stick, and that's how you go forward. And, you know? And I was like, it just occurred to me while playing that it's like, they are really making a very hard attempt to be like, hey, if you're completely new to shooters, if this is your first shooter ever, here's how it works.
Yeah, and
it's their first shooter ever. So I think that's the big deal for them, is that this is Blizzard's entrance into a genre of games that's existed since the 90s. And
well, that's how they used to do business, though. Like,
no, I know.
In fact, that's how they still do business.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that as a gamer, I might have shooter fatigue, guys. Like, there's a lot of shooters out there.
2 came out in the same week.
2 in a week.
I mean, like, Overwatch isn't out. But
and then a Battlefield announcement on the back of it, and then on the front of it we had a Call of Duty announcement.
I'm like 99% sure that the date of the Overwatch beta was specifically planned to fuck up Battleborn.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Brian said. Overwatch and what you said, Steve. Overwatch is beautiful. It's very well executed, but it's shallow. It's not a deep experience. They should have just called it Team Fortress 3. It's exactly the same game. And it's great. Team Fortress 2 is awesome. I love Team Fortress 2. And I'm not hating on Overwatch at all. I wanted more. You have such a vast cast of characters, right? And
an incredible universe too. Like
I want to
know more about it.
And not a campaign? Like that would have been the thing that made me say Game of the Year. If they gave me this really compelling campaign. But to just give me basically more Team Fortress, which is great. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that's good. And I love that Blizzard is entering the space, and if history has shown us anything, Blizzard creates an IP and then iterates upon it to make it last a very long time. So if that Blizzard model is applied to this, that's why I'm holding back judgment. I'm not saying, oh, the game sucks. I'm just saying I want more. And given the company that we're talking about, I wouldn't be surprised if we do get more. But when you look at the characters like Tracer, like you want to see her story. I want to see Reaper's story. And like we talked about on the past Chattycast where maybe this would lend to an animated series kind of thing or shorts. As a gamer, I still want to play a game that tells me the story. So that's really my beat. When it comes to the actual gameplay, it's fantastic. And when it comes to how it feels, I was joking with Josh. I'm like, it's weird. I'm really good at this game, but I'm not really loving it. Like it felt like I was right at home when I picked up the controller and I was playing it. I was like, wow, this game is great. And we were doing Team Fortress 2 Shack battles just a month ago. So it's like I could see how this is going to become really big. Yeah. But I want more. And
I wonder. This seems to be part of a larger trend lately towards multiplayer shooters, like shooters that basically just intend to be multiplayer only, and that's the point of them existing. Battleborn, I would put into that category. I'm actually going to talk about why I think that is in a second, even though it has a campaign. You've got Lawbreakers, you've got Overwatch, you had Evolve last year. Like, I wonder if they stick with their guns as far as that goes, or if there's no reason they couldn't just release story packs. Like, hey, pay $5. It wouldn't be $5, but pay pay $10, get like 3 missions that tell you like Tracer's story. And that would be a cool, sustainable way of keeping it going, because this is the game that I feel like Blizzard's other properties lately, they have a 10-year plan or whatever.
Yeah.
They want to make it last.
And I think that to me is the big thing. Like I agree with you that I feel like there should be more, but I think to me the depth isn't so much the modes or anything like that. The depth is the characters, right? And they said in interviews, like, the whole thing, they want to build this around the characters. They want to have this be, and to me it's kind of like taking what worked about Heroes of the Storm, right? Each character is different, each character matters, each character is unique and has their own specific use. And now we're going to take that and put it in a shooter context, which I think is fantastic. It's a great idea. And so everything I love about Heroes of the Storm, I'm finding myself loving about Overwatch. And so I can find characters that fit my style very, very well without having to be like, okay, like, because I remember the last shooter I played really seriously was Black Ops 3. And you basically, if you are not like a caffeine-addled tween boy, you cannot play Black Ops 3. Like, I cannot do it with any degree of efficiency. It's just a miserable experience. I run, I get shot. I run, I get shot. This one, I feel like I actually have some say in how the game turns out. I have some impact by playing my role and doing what I'm supposed to do. I can actually help my team. That to me is really exciting. It reminds me of what I loved about Team Fortress 2. And now, instead of taking those 7 classes or whatever, now we have 30-some characters who are all very unique. And that to me is just great. And the things you can pull off of them at high level play, like Diva, like the idea that you can drive around in the mech, and the mech's a tank, and that's great. And she's also very useful and very dangerous outside of it. But then you can actually use her super to hit the mech's boosters, eject, and have it explode. You can send a missile that is capable of demolishing an entire team. That is an amazing idea. Then that kind of stuff rewards experimentation and really trying to figure out the game and how it works. So I
love the supers. I love what you said, how they looked at characters, and really every single character is unique, and every single character has a unique super. And you're right, you as an individual can find the character in that game that speaks to you and actually helps you express how you want to play. That to me is the best thing about that game. And it's funny, I picked up Reaper and I was like, oh my god, this guy's he's dual wielding shotguns. That speaks to me, So I feel like that you're dead on. That's really where they innovated. I'd say more than anywhere. It's just that I find it odd that that's the biggest innovation, and yet we have no story behind any of them. I think
I feel like, as somebody who has only played a very small amount, they were like, okay, pick your character, and I'm like, yes. This one, because she looks cool.
Yeah.
Do you think that the characters, the amount of characters is overwhelming at all?
No, I think that because I do think that if you're sitting there at the menu and it's your first time playing the game, yeah, it's going to be a little bit overwhelming. But you can do something like you did, just pick a character that looks cool, or pick a character that meets a certain criteria that your team needs. And you can figure him out pretty quickly. After a while, you're like, okay, I see what this character's supposed to do. Maybe it's a character, maybe it's not. But I just had fun like trying out. Okay, have never played this character. I'm going to see what their deal is. So I played Zenyatta, who's a Buddhist sort of like monk robot. And so his deal is he's a healer, but how he heals is he throws an orb, and that orb attaches somebody, and it follows them around and heals them. So he doesn't do like a tremendous amount of healing, but it's a pretty consistent amount. And then he also has another one where you can throw it at somebody and it sticks to them, and they take more damage. So he becomes both a healer and also someone who can deal lethal amounts of damage if you get a headshot or something like that. So that to me is a really interesting dynamic, and I think I'm just really a big fan of how they've implemented these things.
Yeah, I played as Mercy, who I think is more of the pure kind of healing.
Closest analog to the medic in Team Fortress.
But the thing I liked about her design is they really thought through the mobility, and they were like, okay, what's the one thing that frustrates you if you're a medic and you really need to help your team? It's like, oh, basically snap to the person you need to heal. Mm-hmm. And so they have like an ability that's like, yeah, you just, when your cursor's on the person and they're highlighted, you press this one button, and she flies straight towards them. So it's like lots of smart little ideas like that.
Yeah, and we can talk a lot more about Overwatch as we go. I'm sure we're going to have an entire show about it later. But anyway,
we'll find
I'm digging that beta. It sold me on it 100%. So
no, I don't think I'm overwhelmed at all by the character selection. I think Brian's dead right. You just basically, it just makes you experiment.
Gravitate towards the cool-looking one, and then that's the one you kind of make.
No, I think you experiment. Yeah. You play with one guy, and the way they set it up, you can jump out into another character really easily.
Yep.
So it's not.
There's no punch. It's very Team Fortressy in that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which part of the strategy of Team Fortress was, okay, we're pushing now more soldiers. Okay, we're on defense now, more engineers.
Yeah, and this is absolutely like that. Like, it is 100% like that. So it is. It's. I'm a big fan.
So let me tell you about another shooter that launched this week.
Sure.
Even though Overwatch didn't launch, we're all talking about it as if it did.
It's practically launched, but I mean, not officially.
So it's a soft launch. Battleborn. It's the latest game from Gearbox. It is very Borderlands-y. I mentioned in my review in progress that it's straight up the Borderlands aesthetic, like in every way, from the menus to the fonts to everything. It almost kind of feels like they had an idea for a multiplayer mode in Borderlands and then just spun it off into its own game and came up with a different plot for it. But you could have called this like Borderlands Legends or whatever, and it would have been exactly the same. Here's the thing that's frustrating me about Battleborn. The character designs are cool. I have some characters that I sort of gravitate towards that I think are really, really neat and well designed. In a similar vein to Overwatch. I haven't had enough experience in Overwatch, but hearing you guys talk about Overwatch and just the cool character designs, Battleborn is similar in that way. Like, you can pick a character and be like, oh, this has some cool abilities. The way that Battleborn works is it's not a MOBA. A lot of people thought it was a MOBA, but it's MOBA inspired in that in every match you're gaining enough experience to go through all 10 tiers of the level up tree, and you basically just every time you level up you pick one of two things. So you're sort of seeing the full-on progression of a full game every game, which is the MOBA thing. But the thing that frustrates me is the balance right now is way, way off. The way that almost every single match that I've been in has ended has been we got overrun, because almost every match has a control point thing that culminates in all of it. Sometimes you have a boss battle after that, but usually near the end there's a defend this point, there's going to be a big horde of enemies. Almost every single time, we failed on the last one. And it's the last one because of the way that they are talking with the plot and everything. So it's basically like 45 minutes getting to that point, and the balance of that last defense point is just so out of whack that I haven't been in a successful team, like, hardly ever. And I feel like that probably isn't intentional. That's probably something that they're going to try to patch and tweak the balance, because there's no way that they have to be getting stats. There's no way that 90% of the games can result in failure, and they're like, yeah, that's working out the way we meant. That can't be right. The plot is kind of like nothing, because you can take if you're doing private matches, which basically just means single player, which is a terrible idea because it's almost impossible. They scale it down for one player, but it's almost impossible because you basically have to pick one of the characters that's sort of an all-purpose character. You can't pick a support character. One of my mains was Marquis, the sniper, and it's like you can't play through a whole single-player mission as a sniper. Like that's that doesn't work. So basically, like in the multiplayer missions, it just presents you with 4 options or 3 options and you select one. So you kind of take on the story missions in any order, which sort of makes it feel like. But yeah, it's the frustrating thing about the difficulty in those missions is that it's meant I've had to redo missions and redo missions and redo missions, and when you're redoing them that often, you get so fatigued and sick of the, okay, I guess we're doing the defense point thing again now. You know, like let's see if we lose them, and then you do, and then it's annoying. So I'm burning out on the game like a lot quicker than I'd like to because I just keep trying to finish these same missions over and over again, and then failing out because the balance is all out of whack. So it's frustrating. It's not a bad game by any means. If they fix the balance, I feel like I would get fatigued a lot less. But because of that one thing, it's sort of dragging everything else down with it.
Yeah, we're having daily threads about it in Chatty. So, you know, we have a bunch of shackers that are playing it every day.
Uh-oh.
You know.
Also turned into a robot.
Am I still here?
No, you're here. I got you.
Okay, I think Steve's turned into a robot.
Oh no, I'm a robot.
Yes, you're a robot.
Both good on my end.
I think we're okay, Steve. Anyway,
okay.
There's a lot of shackers playing Battleborn. I haven't gotten around to it yet. I've been doing some other stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna pick it up. I don't know. I know Steve and Martin from Shack. They have a lot of vested interest in it, so want to give them some support wherever we can. But yeah, from what Steve's been complaining about it all week in Slack chats. So
I've been harsher in the room than I am formally on my review.
Yeah, so
to some extent you just vent to your coworkers, but yeah.
Well, honestly, like Steve's rants of what kept me from buying it day one. I'm just kind of, I'm like, okay, well, it sounds like they have some stuff to fix. I'll come in once they fix it, you know, the kind of thing. Yeah. But I plan on getting it for PC. It seems to be where a lot of shackers are playing it. It's just funny though, because we have Battleborn and Overwatch came out this week, and I'm like, with my free time, I'm like, I'd love to play some more Rocket League. Oh, by the way, been playing Off-World Trading Company. The game is great. I have a review that I'm working on, Steve.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And it's a fantastic game.
I thought that would be up your alley.
It's kind of right up my wheelhouse. I mean, yeah, given that I have another screen right here where stocks are being traded. But no, it speaks to me kind of like I was talking about with Bravely Second. These games are, you know, RTS can be super time consuming. You spend like 2 hours building your base, and then another 4 hours battling your friends.
Yeah, OTC matches are like 20 minutes. It's like
off-world matches are like literally 20 minutes, which is perfect for me. And then this idea that you can buy up commodities and then sell them, and you can attack your opponent's source of water to drive the price of water up. It's just like it is a perfect like commentary on what Wall Street is like today. And no, seriously, it's a bunch of scoundrels and liars and cheaters, and a ton of people don't trust Wall Street. Our generation is the most underinvested generation in history because we've seen our parents lose money in 2 bubbles. It's just, to me, it's hilarious, and they do a really good job of poking fun at the corruption. You know, like, there's a whole menu for illicit activities that you can do.
Yeah,
like
the dark menu. And the win condition is buying up the shares of your competitors, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's fantastic too. It's like, can you imagine if I could do that in the games industry? I could just buy shares of a company and knock them out. And it'd be fun. I'd be a lot more active.
And like strategically, you need to buy, like, as soon as you can, you buy some more of your own shares, because that makes it a little bit harder for them to do that. And
yeah, you want to prevent people from buying you out. But the other thing is, as long as your share price is going up, it gets harder. So you want to be more profitable as a company. It's really dynamic.
It's an incredibly complex game of maths.
It's not even math though. I don't use any math when I'm playing it. It's just which direction is the commodity going, up or down?
Well, I mean, I didn't mean for the player. I mean, like, under the hood, there's like a lot of calculations going on at any given time.
There must be some sort of supply-demand algorithm that they're using, but it is great. I just want to stress that again. I want to get the review out as soon as possible because
I played the sort of alpha version at a preview event, and playing that with the developers in the room is kind of funny because they'll be like behind you, being like, buy up the water, buy up water. Like giving you like, they're like whispering stock tips while your competitor is like sitting right next to you. You know, they're like, okay, now sell fuel, quick.
Blue Horseshoe loves Anacot's.
So yeah, it's pretty great. All right, so big topic. Let's talk about the big topic. We touched on this with Battleborn. The big topic this week is spiritual successors. Battleborn arrives this week. It's Gearbox's latest shooter, and its tentative entry into something MOBA-like. It is not a sequel to Borderlands, but it might as well be. From art style to humor, it could have been called Borderlands Legends. So how much value is there in a new name? Whether it's homage without licensing rights or an attempt to break away from expectations, what drives developers to follow in another game's footprints? And what are your favorite spiritual successors? So Asif, I know before the show you said you had many thoughts on the idea of spiritual successors.
Well,
so,
I think what drives people or devs to make a spiritual successor, it's because they love the original. So I think that's just a love of games. The ones that came to mind when I saw this topic were Fast Neo Racing, which is basically a spiritual successor to F-Zero. You had mentioned Battleborn as a spiritual successor to Borderlands. You know, a lot of people like to say Bulletstorm is the spiritual successor to Duke 3D. What I'd say about all this is that you can be a spiritual successor, but you're never going to be that game's sequel. You know?
Yeah.
So, like you said with Battleborn, it feels like a spiritual successor to Borderlands, but it's not Borderlands. There's no Handsome Jack. There's the iconic characters of Borderlands are not there. So it's not Borderlands, as much as it feels like Borderlands. I think when a dev like Gearbox does this, it's more that they have that engine, they have those.
They have like a fingerprint, like a style and humor and visual language, you know, like.
Yeah, so I think the same is true with Valve when they touch a game. Look at like the humor in Portal.
When they touch a game.
Yeah, very key
Valve,
sentence.
we don't make games, we just make money.
They made the lab, and the lab has the humor from Portal. It has Valve's signature all over it, but it's not a spiritual successor. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that when a dev approaches a new IP, they always kind of borrow from their past IP. Whereas a game like Fast Neo Racing, yes, it looks kind of like an F-Zero. It's not F-Zero.
Right. And it's probably made because the developers were like, we really love F-Zero. You know?
Exactly. It's there's
the whole Kickstarter movement, in fact, was kind of that. You know, like
yeah, what's Shovel Knight? I mean, Shovel Knight
crowdfunded thing was like, hey, we love this kind of game, we want to make one of them.
Like, what is Shovel Knight if not a spiritual successor to a bunch of the Metroidvanias? You know, or like even DuckTales, right? Because DuckTales had that bouncing mechanic.
You had the Igarashi Bloodstained game, and then you theoretically have Mighty Number 9.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, eventually, maybe.
They have a release date, but I'm going to believe it when I see it.
I think nostalgia, playing off of gamers' nostalgia, because a lot of us are now, a lot of kids, or a lot of people that grew up in the 80s with NES are now in their 30s, and we have money. So we're willing to spend $5 to $10 on these spiritual successor kind of games. That's why Axiom Verge did so well. I mean, look at, you see a bunch of them. Yeah, like Broforce.
Shadow Complex.
Yeah, Shadow Complex, another good example.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's an element of nostalgia. There's also an element of love of games, and there's also just a hole in our in the gaming world for those games. Like the big developers aren't making these games, so someone has to. But yeah, I think the problem I have is that like I was really excited for Fast Neo Racing. It's not F-Zero. I want F-Zero. I want a new Duke 3. I'm the only person that outside of a couple people on Chatty, that want another Duke Nukem game because I don't want him to go out with forever. I don't think that should be his legacy. But yeah, I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon.
That's a different angle on this topic that I think is kind of interesting. Like how much we tend to sort of praise spiritual successors in one way or another when they get things right, but also like when it's just a hair off, is it like just more frustrating? It's like like you said, you really want a new F-Zero, so Fast Neo Racing must just be like, this is like so close to the thing I want, but it just makes me more frustrated that that I don't actually have a new F-Zero.
I mean, No, I was gonna say you have these attachments to characters from games. Like I said, Duke, or in the case of F-Zero, I love Samurai Goro. He's the pink car. You know, the fact that and actually Fast Neo has a new skin that applies F-Zero skins to their games. Wow. I gotta try that out.
I mean, speaking of Mighty Number 9, like that wasn't even the only Mega Man based nostalgia trip that Inafune tried, because he also had that Red Ash thing that I think kind of fizzled. I don't even remember it.
I am still very angry about that.
It was a weird thing, but to drive at what I was getting at with that is that, like, even if we got that game and it was great, let's just say it's great. Like, that's not going to make up for the fact that we never got a Legends 3, you know?
And that there's a huge cliffhanger at the end of Legends 2 that will never be answered.
Exactly. Like, it's not going to fill that itch in the same way that is the reason that people get excited about it in the first place.
Let's talk about Blackroom real quick. You know, John Romero and Adrian Carmack had this huge hype train to get everyone to support their Kickstarter, and they thought that they'd be able to get, what, $1 million of financing just on the promise of a spiritual successor to Quake and Doom, right? Everyone was like, show us some damn gameplay before we give you any dollars.
Yeah.
And they had to suspend their Kickstarter campaign. So it speaks to the fact that, yeah, you're dead right, Steve. Kickstarter kind of pushed this whole agenda forward, but I think after about 3 years of this, gamers are wise, where we're like, no, I got burned on XYZ Kickstarter, I got burned on this Kickstarter, I'm not going to give you money until I know that this is a real thing.
Also, regarding Blackroom and specifically, you're not even the only Quake and Doom homage coming out. Like, when I went back in a couple weeks ago when I played Lawbreakers, I was like, this feels a lot like a Quake and Doom homage. You know?
Or, remember Strafe? Remember Strafe? That's coming out later this year. That was a Kickstarter. And then, oh, by the way, Doom is coming out this year.
Yeah. The actual properly branded one, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. I really respect John Romero. He designed some of the best levels in history, but when you look at
Blackroom will be great. Like, we don't know.
I hope so.
Seen anything of it,
I'm very hopeful for that project, but I think that speaks to what I'm talking about, is that you can promise us a spiritual successor, but really how much is that worth to someone that it really identifies with that brand? You know, like, it's great that Oculus released Lucky's Tale for VR, but I'd still rather play Mario in VR. You know.
Well, wait till you see the NX. Let me tell you.
But I think when you talk, like, what I'd love to see is, and I think the best way to do these spiritual successors is, if you can't get the original IP, it'd be nice to create a game that evokes those feelings, but is more modernized towards the people who grew up with it, which is why Bravely Second, coming back to something we talked about earlier, is probably the best example of a spiritual successor, right? It's like, okay, you grew up playing Final Fantasy back when you had time to spend hours and hours and hours grinding. We made that game. We brought a lot of things over. There's a lot of references, but we made it so that you, who grew up with it, can now enjoy it and play it and have that same experience, but in a much more intelligent way.
Yeah. Modernized
in a way. More of that, instead of just saying, okay, we're going to do a direct throwback. Like, no, show me what I liked in the past, but do something new with it. Like, Shovel Knight was really good at that.
Shovel Knight's a great example of that.
Yeah, Shovel Knight was all that stuff in a pot, plus you know, the 20 years since, like, elements from that stuff. You know.
It was made by people who studied these games, understood them, but also were, you know, aware of modern games and what modern games should be. So it was just kind of this perfect mix, like, very well balanced in that regard.
Yeah. So, spiritual successors, guys. We're already running a little long, and I don't want to cut this short, but it sounds like we sort of said what we needed to say about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. What games haven't had a spiritual successor that you guys would like to see? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, that's a good question. What's a classic that, like, I loved but haven't really seen anything?
Blaster Master.
Oh, Blaster Master. That would be real good. That's true. I mean, Metroids are a dime a dozen, and
hell, you know, while you open the door for me to yell about Nintendo, where the hell's Metroid? Sorry, I'm mad at Nintendo.
and Nintendo, actually, one of my favorite games of all time that I would have said a few years ago, got an actual sequel, and it was great. The Link to the Past.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's a good way to go, but I think you got to do something new with it. Like Freedom Planet, part of the reason I haven't finished Freedom Planet is that it's a Sonic game, and that's great, but the only thing they really added was a story I don't care about.
By the way, just real quick.
Game, but
just real quick, Overwatch is the spiritual successor to Team Fortress 2.
I would agree with that one.
And I have a theory. Maybe Blizzard has figured out that Valve can't count to 3. So they're just going to remake all of the awesome Valve games that require a third game. So Half-Life 3 will come out, but it'll be called something else and it'll be made by Blizzard.
And it's going to be fantastic.
And Left 4 Dead 3 is going to come out, and it's going to be made by Blizzard, and it's going to be fantastic. Oh, by the way, Portal 3 is going to come out, but it's going to be made by Blizzard, and it's going to be fantastic. So there you go.
Great.
3 spiritual successors.
I thought of a spiritual successor I want. Rogue Squadron. I want to
know hell yes.
Just like a good dogfighty arcadey.
Well, you got Respawn working on something, so who knows?
Yeah, we do. Thank you for that segue. That's going to be in our newsy bits next. But first, let's talk about a word from our sponsors.
Yeah, Audible. That's who's bringing this to you. Audible.com. They're offering you listeners, you kings and queens of the Shack News Chattycast, and Osif too, a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial to check out their service. Tons of great books, games, tech, romance, baking, I don't know. Lots of topics to choose from. Every week we're going to choose one that you think, or that we think you might like. This time we don't really have time to do it, but there's 150,000 books there, so go find one. And make sure.
There's a Douglas Adams book.
Yeah, Douglas Adams. Go get any Douglas Adams thing. It's great. audibletrial.com/chattycast. That's audibletrial.com/chattycast. 30-day free trial, free audiobook download. You can't get better than that.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Audible.
Yeah, you're good.
I was going to recommend The Man in the High Castle because I've been reading that lately.
Well, there you go. Man in the High Castle. I'm sure that's on
there. I bet it's on Audible. Yes, it is.
I will look it up right now.
Yeah.
Imagine. I hope Douglas Adams books are on there.
I mean, it's a pretty well-known Philip K. Dick book. So, anyway,
Douglas Adams is on there, and
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is on Audible. Go read.
That's how I read Hitchhiker's Guide. It was very good.
Man in the High Castle also.
I read Hitchhiker's Guide when I was like, I don't know, 5th grade or 6th grade.
Man in the High Castle is about what if the Nazis had won. So, real cheery topic there.
Isn't that on Amazon as a show now?
Yes, that was part of the reason I started reading it, because I had heard so much about the book, and then I found out it was a show too. So
I had a hard time getting into it. We couldn't get past the first episode, but
cool.
The book is also kind of hard to get through. It's not that it's a bad book; it's that there's a lot of characters, and I care about them, and at different levels. And there's a lot of filling us in on the alternate history. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent here. So, newsy bits. We're still sort of awaiting more Battlefield news, but in the meantime, Respawn is working on a Star Wars game, as Brian just mentioned.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the new studio.
I'm gonna let you guys cover this one, apparently.
The new studio that was formed to prepare for Titanfall is working on Star Wars now, and this feels like a pretty good sign. We had our Star Wars Battlefield, whatever.
Battle Fudge.
Yeah, whatever it was. And that was sort of, let's say, got a mixed reception. But Respawn is a very respected developer, and I assume that they would probably not just develop a multiplayer. I joked prepare for AT-AT fall, but I feel like it's probably going to be something a little bit more ambitious than that. So we don't know much else about it, but just the pedigree alone, I think, has people pretty excited.
I can't think of a studio that would be more interesting or would be more qualified to do something like this. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
And we know that Star Wars.
We know they can do scale. I mean, like I joke about the Titanfall connection, but the real connection that we should be paying attention to for that is like these guys know scale. They can make these battles where one thing is big and one thing is little, and it feels balanced and it feels good, and it if you're on the ground, it feels kind of overwhelming, but that's the thrill of it.
Or maybe they'll do something completely different. Maybe it's not a first-person shooter. Who knows?
Maybe it's not a first-person shooter. Maybe it's maybe it's a match 3 puzzle game. But I'm sure. I feel like if they're announcing this already, if they're talking about this already, this has to be something that they tease at E3. It's pretty exciting for me. Because that means that we're only like a month away from hearing more about it.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Star Wars, guys.
I'm all for it. I want, like you said earlier, I'd love a new Rogue Squadron. So if they decide to make a space combat game, I'll be excited.
You're gonna make me.
Especially with Rogue One coming out, it just seems like they should be doing something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Is like last year, the Star Wars Battlefront tied in with, in a very loose way, tied in with Episode 7. So it only makes sense that they would tie this in with Rogue One.
Yep. Oh god, Battlefront. You're talking about games that are shallow.
I still have Battlefront. I haven't even put it in my PlayStation. I need to try it sometime.
Star Wars Battlefront makes Overwatch look like the friggin' Pacific Ocean when it comes to depth.
Yeah, I mean, the advice I got from our friend of the show, Joe Torado, was, well, play it for like 3 days, and then you'll have gotten like pretty much all that you want out of it. And I'm like, all right, I'll try it sometime. Yeah. Whenever I do not have other things that I need to play, I'll try it.
Yeah, so never.
Yeah. So that's kind of how my pile works. There's a lot of things on the when I'm less busy pile that never comes.
Yep, that's where MLB The Show is for me right now.
So good, though.
I know, I gotta play it.
Yeah, it's good.
So until I break into our game with breaking news, if we get more about Battlefield, we can start playing our game. So beat the doc. Beat the doc, guys. I know you've missed this, Asif.
Well, I saw Cassidy beat him last week.
He did. Yeah. She beat me good.
Yeah. Right from the beginning.
I'll try to do right by her.
You have to defend her crown until she gets back.
Third chair. I'm wearing my Cleveland shirt too, so let's do this.
I wish the Cavs the best of luck, but your baseball team can go right to hell.
I will warn you, this game could be like just an utter train wreck because we're trying something new today.
Oh no.
Today's game, and if it is a train wreck and doesn't really work, then we just won't do it again. But I wanted to try it out. Today's game is blatantly lifted from a different podcast, from Doug Loves Movies, which is basically a movie podcast that revolves around games. We're going to play Build a Title, and I know Brian is familiar with this, but for those unfamiliar, we take a normal video game title. Video games, not movies, since this is a video game podcast. Then we attach different titles to the front or back of it. So for Gears of War, you could say Gears of Warcraft. That's a bad example because where else do you even go from there? But the point goes to the first person unable to add another title onto the list, and we're going to play 3 rounds.
Okay.
All right?
Are we dinging, or what is this?
I think it goes back and forth.
Okay.
So, Brian, no, Asif, you go first because you're our guest. The first title to build off of is Rocket League.
Rocket League of Legends.
Rocket League of Legends, Brian.
Okay, Rocket League of Legends of Legaia.
Oh, nice one, Rob. I don't think you're gonna get Legaia into the start of any title.
Wait, is it Legends or Legend of Legaia? I think I might have.
I feel like we can fudge the plurals a little bit because this is a difficult game.
I don't know. That's not in the spirit of it.
So did he?
It is Legend of Legaia.
Ah, I win. Technicality.
Yeah. Well, you're both disagreeing with my we can fudge it decision, so we'll let it go.
We'll just throw that round out and just get another name.
No, okay. I count. I win.
All right.
All right, Brian.
Yes.
You're starting with Puzzle Quest. This one might be tricky. I don't know.
Puzzle Quest 64.
Oh, that's cheap as hell. But okay.
If
you think of something that starts with the number 4, that will count. It doesn't have to be 64. Also, it can be a homonym, I should mention. Homonyms count, so if it's FOR, that also counts.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let him have that one.
I got the next one.
Brian, what's the next one?
Puzzle Quest 60 Forza Horizon.
Oh God.
Oh.
This is just gibberish at this point.
That's a painful one. All right. Austin, it's back to you. Game Party.
Puzzle Quest Forza Horizon Ontario. Never mind.
Game Party?
Game Party. The dumbest, most generic video game title.
Yeah, was that for Wii?
Yeah, that was a Wii game.
Oh, it was really bad. Game Party. Is it? Party.
Also, again, homonyms. Homonyms count. T. If you can think of something that starts with a T sound, that counts.
Okay.
Or if you can think of something that ends with gay, I guess.
Okay, so Game Team Fortress 2?
Oh, look at you. Counts. Nice.
Game Team Fortress 2.
Okay.
This is so bad. This might be worse than Anagram.
So, Game Team Fortress Toontown, the defunct Disney MMO.
Wow, okay. I didn't expect you to go in that direction.
So Game Party Team Fortress Toontown.
Toontown. So you need something that starts with town. This is stupid.
It's better than your stupid anagrams, though. I'll say that.
It's almost. It's almost as bad.
It's close.
Town.
Due to some technical difficulties, I had very little time to prepare the show this week, and I considered anagrams because that's a very quick game to put together.
Oh no!
But I was like, no, they would hate me forever.
Town. I don't get it. No.
Oh, I'm sorry. That point goes to Brian then. So the doc has won.
And dark spreads over the land.
Did you think of one just in case that ended with town or began with town?
Or
ended with game, I guess. You know, you could really like say anything.
Townimusha? I don't know.
It occurs to me that for Game Party, like any of those dumb games that are like, you know, the guy game or whatever it was.
Oh, that would have been, yeah. Then you could do I Want to Be the Guy game.
Oh, that's true. We should just continue building on this one.
Do another one. These are fun.
Make a big okay. Shoot. Battleborn.
See, I don't know why you didn't go with that in the first place. I'll let.
I don't know.
Yeah. See, coming up with a title off the top of your head.
I've already lost.
Isn't there like a One Piece game called something Pirate Battle?
Probably.
I guess I'd have to know the name for it to count.
Hold on, I'll Google. We'll figure. This will be a group effort. This isn't for points. One Piece Battle of Marineford. I don't even know what that
is.
That's
not
it. Pirate Battle? But it's Pirate Warriors.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
So, no, never mind. Yeah. Never mind.
Battlefield-born war cry.
You can't do that.
Yeah, you're starting to throw words in the middle.
In the middle, yeah.
I know.
You have violated the core concept of the game. It's the first time we've ever done it.
Battleborn in the USA.
Yeah.
War Crisis. War Crisis.
What?
War Cry and Crisis.
Far Crisis.
Far Crisis, yeah. That also works. But I feel like War is
Far Cry System, Shock 2,
Call of
Fast
Duty
2 Furious.
Call of Duty World at War Crisis. And then whatever you said.
System Shock 2.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Super Mario Brothers in Arms.
Oh,
yeah, that's good.
That's a good one. I feel like just combining two titles and imagining what game that would be is a good game. Maybe I'll make that a future one. All right. So that's the game. That was idiotic.
When is it not?
Yeah, it always is. That's sort of.
I think when I'm not on the show, they tend to be less terrible.
I think when I warned Cassie about this game, the whole game segment, I was like, just so you know, at the end, there's a dumb game that does not matter, and it's always like really stupid and kind of terrible. So I set proper expectations. Anyway, so that is the game and that is the show. But I'm sure we have lots of plugs, don't we, Asif?
Oh, many. You want me to go first?
Yes.
I got nothing to go for it.
You said something. You made a huge announcement yesterday on the Chatty.
I did.
That I feel like we need to address here on the Chattycast.
We should. Shack News, celebrating our 20th anniversary, if you can believe it. 20 years covering video games from Quake to now virtual reality. We are going to E3. But not only are we going to E3, we're going to have a booth there to celebrate. And
Awesome.
we're going to be showcasing Shackers games made by Shackers for Shackers. We're also going to have a live stream from the show floor doing interviews and game demos and all sorts of stuff. So if you're a Shacker and you make games, shoot me an email or a Shack message, asif.con@shacknews.com, or over there on the chat.
We are contacting non-Shackers to see if they are interested, but if you are a Shacker, I feel like you get
preferential treatment.
Yeah,
absolutely. We want to do right by our community because we have one of the best communities, if not the best community in gaming, and we just want to celebrate. So instead of throwing a party, we're doing that. Outside of that, I always want to promote Shack News Mercury. It's $5 a month. Helps.
Also, if you're just visiting E3, even if you don't have a game to show, if you're going to be at E3 for whatever reason, we're next to Ubisoft, so come say hi.
Yeah, come by, hang out, play some games. We're gonna have some really cool games there. Probably gonna have some VR, and outside of that, I have one other plug that isn't Shack News related, if you don't mind.
No.
Oh, fine.
Okay.
One of my other companies, it's Army of Techno. We're throwing a party in Detroit, Michigan on May 29th. It's during the Movement Festival. It's the largest techno festival in North America. One thing we're doing is donating $5 per ticket to Michigan charities. The Flint Water Fund from the United Way, and also supporting the homeless in Detroit. So we're throwing a party in Detroit, but we're also going to be leaving something for the state of Michigan. I went to school in Michigan. I wouldn't be making techno if it wasn't for Ann Arbor and Detroit. So I'm going back, and we're going to do something good. So
Fantastic.
It's called, if you want to check it out, nopartylikeadetroitparty.com is where you can find out more about that. But yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to Army of Techno while I could.
I know Brian has a particular soft spot for Detroit. I've never been, but
it's really
for Michigan in general. Yeah.
I mean, it's breaking my heart to see what's going on across the whole state, but especially in the impoverished cities like Flint, like Saginaw, like Detroit. It's not right what's going on. That government is really doing a huge disservice to the people, and the least we could do is we're still a for-profit event, but I think we're the only event that weekend that's doing anything for the community with that respect. Also, if you come to the party, you get free earplugs and free water, because I don't want anyone to die on my dance floor. No, it's ridiculous. They charge like $6 for a bottle of water at these events.
Oh my God.
You have people that will pass out on the dance floor because they can't afford water, and I don't want that to happen. So it's something that we're a for-profit company, but we want to set a standard of treating our patrons better, and I think hopefully that spreads. But yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to Army of Techno. And then also I have Cyberpunk video on Shack. You should check it out.
You're a good man, Charlie Brown.
You are a good egg.
Thanks.
So my plugs are so much less hip and cool and for the good of humanity in one way or another. But we've got a lot of reviews going up. We've got Josh's review in progress of Uncharted. He's just waiting for the servers to go live so we can check it. We've got my Battleborn review in progress, which will be finalized once I can finish games. Because I feel like I need to see the plot all the way through. The quote-unquote plot. So yeah. Sort of as usual, go on to Shack News and check out all of our stuff. Oh, and I didn't plug it last week because it was still in progress, and at this point it's a few days old. But if you haven't checked it out yet, and you're into Hearthstone, I published a detailed look at the making of a card. People dug it last time we did it, and so we did it again. And this time I asked Blizzard, like, hey, can we have access to one of the bigger cards, like a legendary, especially like an old god, since it's Whispers of the Old Gods, and there's only 4 of those. So we got the full, well, not the full. There were steps in between that I didn't see, but we got a lot of the steps of making Yogg Saron, which is the big crazy legendary that just casts a bunch of random spells.
Hate that guy.
And yeah, so we got a closer look at like the rejected design concepts for that guy, and it's a really cool sort of inside look about what goes into designing a card and why Blizzard's designers will like playtest and be like, this doesn't really work out the way we want it to. It's not really hitting the right kind of game style that we want it to. One of the cards, they said it made it feel like one player was playing Hearthstone and the other player was playing a boss battle, and that was like not the feeling they wanted to give. So lots of cool little insights like that. So if you're really into Hearthstone, like I am, it's a cool inside look at the process. That's my major plug. So yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I stink at Hearthstone.
Yeah, most people do.
I mean, and also, like, I went online for the first time and just got murdered because I haven't bought a single pack. So it was just like, I was like, hey guys, I want to play Hearthstone. Smash. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very aggressive meta right now because this will be very brief, but the new expansion really favored some aggressive warlock styles, so that's just like a cancer that's everywhere on the ladder right now. And I've kind of just I haven't had time to like go on and see like what are good counter strategies for that because I've been playing other things for review. So I've just been playing casual because I'm like, I don't even want to have to deal with that whole mess. Yeah. So welcome to our new podcast, Gabbing About Hearthstone.
Yep.
Anyway, that's the show. We'll be back a little sooner next week, hopefully without scheduling difficulties in the middle of the week. And maybe with Cassidy back. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know if she's traveling or not. We'll find out. She's the new Aussie, in that we constantly just have her going places. So
she's part of the Aussie Voltron.
Yeah. She's the traveling part.
She's that one she's that one that's in the airport being like, I hate the airports.
Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. Go on to iTunes, give us some reviews. It helps other people find the shows. And until next time, I'm Steve Watts.
And I am Brian Carr.
And we'll see you on Chatty.